Howdy folks, and welcome back to another edition of Somewhere Downrange. And today I am making a response to a couple of people that I was talking to in person, not online, that had seen my video on the 1883 Colt Burgess lever action rifle, and they'd seen the pictures that I posted of the ejector mechanism and that one little video of where you could just push it. They asked me to go a little deeper for them because they were mainly just curious. Neither one of them admitted to having a Colt Burgess rifle. But if they do, they're not all that great a friend because they never once showed it to me or let me go play with it. So without further ado, we're going to take a little deeper dive into the internals on this Colt Burgess. And I'm going to give you a close-up view of what I'm talking about and a little bit of that. Going to hopefully give you a little more information just in case you know one of 6,402 other people that own one of these and they've got an issue. So right now, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see all the little stuff a little bit clearer. Now I've already got stock off, because really it's just two screws come off. Everybody knows how to take a stock off a lever gun, and if you don't, YouTube, okay? And we've got basically just 3 screws hold this gun together. You've got your hammer screw, and it's a simplistic term because actually the hammer is captured inside a foundational fixture that everything else on the internals, with the exception of the bolt, is actually connected to. So unlike Winchesters and other rifles of the era, this thing is so simple to bring out and take apart. It's sweet. So we're going to pull that. We've got a cap screw here that covers the takedown pin that connects the action lever to the bolt. And we have an actual sleeve that goes through the lever itself on its pivot point, what you'd call a pivot pin, that has a cap screw on the other end. You pull this, drive a pin out from the other side through this little hole right here. You unscrew that, drive this main pin out here, and then everything just kind of comes apart. So let's get these screws out. Now I like to start. Some people will tell you, you need to knock this out first. You can do it any time between here and here. But I like to go 1, 2, 3. Because I'm going to do these 2 on the side, flip it over, do that other one. Now, this pivot pin, the sleeve, can actually reverse. It can go either way. And some people like to reverse it so that that cap screw that covers it and retains it is on the same side as these 3. But to me, it really doesn't make a lot of difference because I got to get over here on this side to put a punch in anyway, so no biggie. I like to go ahead and bring this one out because while everything is together and set, and you've got the hammer on half cock, there's very little to no tension on it whatsoever. Now, everybody says, oh my God, he's screwing on a gun screw. Yes, they're old. Yes, they are wallered out. Oh my God, some of these have been really abused. But that was the nature of the times back then. Everybody's like, I'll tear it up, I'll get another one. Good luck with that shit on this nowadays. But there are secrets to loosening screws that might not have a really good, well-defined, so I term those as trade secrets, and I don't like to give those away. So anyway, the main thing to remember is have the right size tip, have the right size driver. If you ain't got the right shit, do not attempt it. Because without them, you're just going to scar shit up, rat tail shit, skip shit, tear shit. Why do that, right? There's no sense in that. Get the right size tip or leave the damn thing alone, okay? Just do that. Take it to somebody that's got the right shit, because damn. All right, now I'm going to change the camera angle so we can get a little close to what's going on, because you really don't, you don't need to see my ass out, my ugly ass mug, because it's not pertinent to what we're doing. Stand by. All right, hopefully you can see this well. Now, I'll show you this. That cap screw we mentioned that covers this exposes that. So we want to go ahead and pull that off, take it away, put it in our little parts kit. Right now, hopefully you can see this. Where's my flashlight? Inside this hole, that's where the pin that connects the bolt and the front toggle link of the lever is going to come out. So what you got to do is move it back and forth. You can see it. Now when the lever is fully closed, that pin is not going to be capable of coming out. So there's a point right about there, just about finger width if you got fat fingers like I do, about halfway up the loop. And it'll float right there. And all you're going to do is take your little punch, and this one's going to just fall out. I guarantee it. So I'm going to grab my punch. All right, got my punch. Like I said, we can just move that lever down right there. And it's that simple. It just came right out. And it just comes right out that hole. We'll put that over in the parts bin. And now, just about the same way, and it may take a little bit of persuasion. It doesn't take a lot. See, I'm just barely tapping it. It'll come right out. There you go. And then, unlike some other rifles, this rifle does not require you to remove the mainspring, because the mainspring is captured under the hammer and remains so even as you bring everything out. Now, you want to just kind of get it to where you can move it how you're comfortable with your hand, but you're just going to bring it down and drop it out. It's that simple. It's all captured. It's all a part of an assembly. Nothing falls out. Nothing goes bang. Nothing goes bling. So it's a pretty damn sweet way to do it. I love this design. Ain't that cool? It is cool. So now I've got an image, already taken a still image of the front of this toggle link. This is the single toggle link, which differs from the toggle link series of the Henrys and the early Winchesters that had a double toggle link. This one is just singular. And they're captured. They remain together. They don't go anywhere. These fins right here, they actually are a part of the system that is molded to the carrier in the action that brings the cartridge up for loading. And you can see this carrier area right down here with it. So that's pretty cool. And really, for as old as this gun is, it's in fine shape inside. But this toggle is just a single toggle, and that makes it 2 or 3 times as strong as a double toggle link. So that's pretty strong action. It's pretty nice. All right, let's get the bolt out. And literally, you can just, and it comes out. It's that simple. Now, we won't need this anymore. We'll set that to the side. And let's get you a good view here. The inside of this. Alright, so let's give you a pretty good interior view, the inside of the bolt. And there's some things to point out if you ever are afforded the opportunity to mess with these. Is one, this screw right here, right there, on this weapon is a two-piece screw. There's the threaded cap, and then there's like a piece of all thread in there, but it's vintage, it's not new. And it's actually got a little bit of cattywampus to it. It's not absolutely straight. And I'm sure the reason that is because this is your firing pin right here. This is your main firing pin plate. The hammer hits right back here, and it bounces this thing back and forth on this cap screw, which can't be tightened all the way down, because if it is, this ain't moving. In fact, you might have seen that head move just a little bit. Now, that brings up another point. And I am by no means an expert on these, and there may very well be a reason for this. Every video that I've seen, which is 2, of a disassembly of this particular action, there are 2 additional parts inside this bolt that are not inside the bolt of this weapon. One is what's called a firing pin retractor arm, and there's a pin right here, a cross pin that goes through, and it is held in place in this region by that pin, and there's a leaf spring underneath here, or maybe it's on top of it. I've never really been quite sure, that holds spring tension against it, so that when the bolt is being retracted or the hammer is cocked, that retention arm pushes the firing pin to the rear. And when you fire the weapon, obviously, that spring tension is defeated and overcome by the forward momentum. The weapon fires, and it gets pushed back. So the pin doesn't float like this one does. Now, I haven't seen anything anybody describes anywhere about this being a modification that they might have done on the carbines versus the rifles, but I would think it would be necessary to either one of those specific types. And you can see that pin, just that little screw. It ain't in there solid and secure. I mean, it's in there secure, but you know, if I tightened it down to where it started to snug, you couldn't push this main firing pin. Now, I'm not going to take this out of there to show you the pin, because I don't need to. Now, another thing I'll draw your attention to on this is this little point right here. Okay. Now, we talked about the ejector being under spring tension. This is the hole wherein you place that 2-legged spring steel leaf spring, one leg of which is longer than the other and goes up into a corresponding slot in the rear of the ejector itself. And when that spring breaks, you have to remove it from this housing. Now, it's held in place by an itty-bitty pin that is probably just a little bit thicker than a paper clip, and it comes through right here. It would be at that set. That spring has a small enclosed loop on it. And we're not going to try to drive that out either, because it ain't my weapon and it's not necessary to do, because we ain't fixing anything. But this leaf spring is more than likely broken, and although it won't move because it's on a pin, I'll demonstrate to you now. So you can see from a side profile that the firing pin is protruding from its orifice. I've just retracted it. Okay. Now, around that firing pin is the ejector, this collar right here, and this moves under that spring tension in that channel. And if I can get it to give me a good side profile and show you this, you can actually actuate it from the back. If I can get up to the spot. So that moved it out some. And that is its normal resting position. If the spring is good, that's where it should always be, and unless the bolt is closed and there is a cartridge in front of the face of the bolt. I can take my little punch and just slide her on back. I guarantee you it's free as a bird. So this is the issue I was talking about. Now, I'm going to put a picture in here that shows you what happens when this is allowed to travel, because it can actually travel back just a little further than below the flush line. I'll try to get the angle so you can see that. And what happens is, each and every time you fire the weapon, because that ejector is basically the same circumference, maybe just a tad larger, than the circumference of a large rifle primer, that primer wants to back out because it's not up against solid steel of a bolt face, as it would be if you were firing a weapon that had the ejector down here, like you have on Model 92s and 73s and things like that. So the primer, under explosive pressure, is driving this back further than you really want it to go. And so that is what is contributing to weakening that leaf spring, and also creating a slight amount of damage on the front toggle link of the action. So let's move this aside and see if it'll get up close here. If I can get to the right angle. Right here on the face of this link, you'll see where it's actually been getting right there, whacked by the back of that ejector assembly, or ejector collar, whatever you want to call it. But this is something that occurred. It goes back and it hits that. Now, there is a small screw that actually holds the ejector in place, and if we pulled this extractor arm, you could see it, and it's very tiny, it's very small, and the odds are very, very great that if you tried to get it out, you'd wind up just having to drill it out, get a new screw, and reinstall it if you're going to fix this issue. But that is no bueno, man. That's no bueno. All right. Other than that, this is a pretty cool weapon. I mean, it's really, really cool the way they made this. And obviously, you can take this out if you need to, for whatever reason. But there's no need to. It would just come right out. It's not an issue. You don't have to pull anything off of it to do that. But it's very strong. It's still real smooth. There's not a lot of grunge in there. This weapon might have received a hell of a lot of hard service, but it did not receive really much abuse. The damage that occurred because of design. It's what nowadays we would call a design flaw. And there might have been ways to mitigate that. There might be now, but back in the day, that was something different. All right, so let's put this puppy back together, and we'll do a little after action. Stand by. Kind of makes me want to have some Western style music playing while I do this thing. Something like music from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Wouldn't that be fun? It's really truly a unique firearm, and I really, really, really wish that this thing didn't have that issue, because it would have been so fun to play with. So fun to have been able to shoot more than just one round. But things happen, you know. Sometimes things happen you just have no control over. And one thing you can do, it's a little side trick. I've heard some people mention, if you may think you might be having issues with lining up the toggle and the bolt, is you can actually kind of reverse your order. If you'll take this pin and put it in first, this holds everything in place. Everything is lined up the way it needs to be. So it should make emplacement of your pin, and I want a little lube for this, relatively straightforward, simple, and easy to do. Look at that. Just love them little trade secrets. And we'll go ahead and put that cover cap screw back on because, well, no need not to. And as you can tell, this is one very highly precise instrument that I'm using, as defined by the red and yellow color. Stanley. Oh, and while it's, you know, a little something to kill the time since you don't have any Western music, talking about Stanley screwdrivers. It's so funny. And bless their heart, I love her to death. So it was Christmas 2001 or 2002, and at the time I was a married man for the third time in my life, and the last time in my life, and I was putting together some toys that my current wife's daughter-in-law and her son had purchased for their kid, for their girl, and she's a sweet kid. And I needed a Phillips screwdriver to complete the project. So I told my daughter-in-law, I said, go out there to my workbench in the shop and grab me a Phillips screwdriver. So she went out in the garage, and she was out there for a good 5 minutes, at least. And she never came back in. She finally come back in. She didn't have anything in her hand. And she said, what kind of screwdriver did you want? I said, a Phillips. So she went back out there, and she was out there for another couple of minutes. And then she hollered at me through the kitchen. She said, you don't have any Phillips screwdrivers. Now, I knew this to be false because there's a whole damn raft of them hanging on the front face of the workbench. And I said, yes, I do have Phillips screwdrivers. There's a whole bunch of them right there. And she came stomping back in, and she said, Brad, you have all sorts of screwdrivers. You have Snap-on screwdrivers. You have Matco screwdrivers. You have Stanley screwdrivers. And you have regular old black handle screwdrivers, but you do not have any Phillips screwdrivers. My current wife at the time and I just kind of tried our best not to laugh our butts completely off. And I said, honey, I'm talking about a style of screwdriver, not a name brand. Well, she went out there, she come back about a minute later, and she had 6 screwdrivers in her hand, and she said, tell me which one is a Phillips. Every damn one of them a straight bladed screwdriver. I said, never mind, I'll get it my damn self. But that's just one of the funny stories I like to remember from my long ago past. Let's put the stock on this bad boy. Be right back. Alrighty then. So there you have it, folks. One of the coolest, smoothest little lever action guns you're going to come across. And I swear. I mean, look at this. That's just too cool. So that is the issue with the Colt Burgess Ejector. And I really wish I knew where to get the parts. Because if you fix that, this would be a fun son of a bitch. I mean, it's just so cool. And you just, man, you can't. I love these old guns. And really love them. Oh, let's talk about that loading port. This is about the coolest thing on here, is the fact that you put that bullet head right against that little shelf. It starts to move back, your bullet goes in there, and by the time you push all the way forward, it just sucks that bullet. It feels like it sucks that bullet in there. I have never seen a Henry or a Winchester or a Moreland loading gate that falls in, that's pushed by, that doesn't want to scrape some brass off or be a pain in the ass, especially Rossi's. And this thing just, you take that bullet, you're like, where'd it go? It's the neatest damn gun I ever saw. Garland Sears, you are a lucky man just to have one of these. Well, anyway, folks, I hope that enlightened you and enlightened my buddies and anybody else that might have been a little curious about that. And if you ever get the chance, if you got $9,000 or $10,000 or $12,000 to get one, if you find one of 6,402 of them, because this one ain't gonna be on the market anytime soon. If everything works, if you're curious that it has this issue, simply pick that weapon up if they will allow you to. Unlock that lever, bring it back, look inside, and see if that ejector is standing forward. And if it is, and they will allow you to, get your little punch and press on it and see if it has spring tension. If it does, and everything else looks and sounds right, it's worth $10,000. Because that's the going rate, baby. And thank God I didn't have to pay that money just to play with it. And it has a little lock for the lever. Ain't that cool as hell? Alright, folks, if you got any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them as best I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find somebody that does. But thanks for coming back, and this video was kind of long-winded, but then again, videos like this usually are. You guys have a great day. Have a Merry Christmas. Come back and see me. I love you guys. Pass it on. And I'll be seeing you sometime real soon, somewhere downrange. Bye.